Hi everyone and welcome to today's podcast. We're going to be talking about a very important topic today, and it has to do with customer discovery. So this is a stage where you have come up with an idea to solve a problem in the market. And customer discovery process allows you to go out there and actually test this idea with the people you would like to sell to and see if they really buy into it, and oftentimes, when it comes to startups, entrepreneurs dream of ideas, and then they stay at home, they stay in their office, and they develop this idea on their own, thinking that they know what the customer wants. But actually, we don't. Truth be told, you have to approach business model as if you don't know anything. Even though you have an idea and you have a strong feeling that that idea is going to work, you have to go at it with the understanding that you don't know anything and the customer knows best. But how do you find out what the customer actually wants? And that is where this customer discovery process comes in. A few months ago, I went through a program called iCore, and it was supposed to help me and my partners do customer discovery for this medical device product that we were trying to take to market. And that process changed my life in terms of how I approach customer discovery. It was eye-opening to just see how important it is to actually go out there and talk to your potential customers and see what they think. And when I started Gift Card Rescue, I did some of that. I went to the mall, I talked to people who had gift cards to make sure that, I was onto something. But when you actually force yourself to sit down and actually think through this process, build your set of questions and go out there and talk to people, the results can be very, very, very rewarding and dramatic. So this customer discovery methodology is part of what they call the lean startup movement. And there's a guy called Steve Blank that has actually popularized this methodology. So a lot of the things I'm going to be sharing is coming from the Steve Blank school of thought about how to do customer discovery. And the basic idea is that you have to get out of the building and go out and talk to your customers. So before you do that, there are three things that you have to do. The first one is preparing for your interview. The second one is actually going out there and doing the interview. And then the third one is then synthesizing or making sense of the data that you've collected during the interview. So let's start with the first one. I would recommend that for whatever product you're going to want to sell, or the service, or whatever you're trying to start the business on, you need to talk to at least 75 people. Yes, 75 people who are potential customers. So you need to go find the people that you want to sell your product or your service to and talk to them. And so you need to make a list of 75 people. You look at your network, Facebook, your social media, like people who are actually potential customers, not your friends or your family, people who are real customers that will actually be interested in buying your product. So identify 75 of them and go out there and talk to them. But before you go, you have to prepare what you're going to say. Because remember, the whole idea is that you have a business idea that you've come up with. And now you want to go out there and find out if the customers actually are excited about what you're doing or what you're trying to do. So you cannot just send out a SurveyMonkey email, or send out an email to a bunch of your friends, or a Facebook message for them to enter a survey. No, you have to actually go out there and talk to them face to face. You want to see their reaction, their facial reaction. You want to see, the vibe with which they're receiving your message. So you either do that face to face, or you can do a Google Hangout or Skype. But whatever you do, you have to do a face-to-face meeting that allows you to ask those questions in person. Don't let somebody else do it. Do it yourself, because you are the founder and you need to understand if this is going to work or not. So once you've identified those 75 people, you need to then get ready to go out there and do the interview yourself. And it takes some practice. Practice with your friend, practice with your co-founder. Make sure that you know what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And when it comes to questions, there's a method to it. You don't want to go out there and just tell people that, hey, I have built this shiny object, what do you think? No, you actually want to go and approach your interview from an open-minded perspective. you want to ask them about the current product they're using, the competitor's product. What do they think about that? What is good about it? What do they like about it, and what don't they like about that product? You want to find out their pain points with the current products they're using. You also want to find out if they have an opportunity to build that product to what they want, what would those features include? So you want to go out there and just ask open-ended questions about their experience with what they are using now, and learn as much as you can about what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to see, what they are paying for it, what they think they should be paying for it, etc. And then collect all that data and then make an informed decision about that. Now, when you're doing the interview, there's a tendency to want to be very scripted. Hey, I have 20 questions I need to ask you, and they may be heading in a particular direction and you want to bring them back. No, none of that. When you're doing customer discovery interview, you have to allow the interview to go where it wants to go. Because your goal is to learn whether the customer wants what you're trying to do. The service or the product you're trying to develop, you want to know if they want it. So wherever the interview goes, go there. Don't be rigid. Don't feel like you have to rush through all the questions, because when they go off tangent, that's when you begin to learn a lot. So, you'll get the hang of it, but make sure that you're not scripted. And also don't try to feed them the answers or lead them to the answer. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is see where the chips fall. And you can only do that if you ask open-ended questions, if you talk less and let them talk more. Your goal is not to convince them about anything. You're not trying to sell them anything. All you're trying to do is learn, get information, and then go back and sit down and review. So that's step number 2. And at the end of each interview, you have to ask the person, is there any other question I didn't ask you? And you'll be surprised what kind of answers you get, because they may have things that they want to tell you, but if you don't ask them, you may not know. So make sure that you're always checking in with them at the end of each interview if there was any question you should have asked them. And you'll be surprised where people will go with that. And then another good question to ask, which will help you get more interviews, is ask them, is there any other person I should talk to about this project? And then they can give you names of clients they know that are using the same product or competitor products, because your goal is to get as many interviews as possible from potential customers. So that is step 2. And then step 3, once you're done your 75 interviews, is to sit down and think about, okay, what did I learn? Did they bite, or was it a total flop? And regardless, you have to embrace what you learned. If they loved it, and you feel like you're onto something, then that's good. But if you went out there and tested a bunch of questions and they didn't bite, then you need to sit down and regroup and figure out, what does the data tell you? Because the data is always going to tell you something. It's going to tell you what the customer wants. They may not want what you want. They may not want what you're thinking about. They may not want it's about, they may think your baby's ugly. That's okay. But you have to go out there and create what they want. And that's how you do a successful customer discovery. So one of the important things I want to highlight in this process is that, you are going out there on a journey to make sure that you don't spend money and resources on a product that people don't want. And the only way to do that is to go out there and talk to people. And some of you are very shy. Some of you don't like to approach random people. But you have to muster the courage and go find the people. Get people to introduce you to some people that you think will be good customers. And go out there and be brave and do the work and do it the right way. And if you go out there with no preconceived notions and just see this as part of a discovery process where you're trying to learn from your potential customers, you will come back with a lot of good data. And I think the last thing I want to say is that when it comes to customer discovery, one thing to keep in mind is that you are not going there to sell your product. But if at some point you feel tempted to talk about your product, you want to wait until you've asked all your questions and learn everything from them before you introduce your product and say, hey, so having asked you all these questions, this is what I'm working on. This is the features it has. What do you think? But you do that as the last thing. You don't start with that. You don't go there and say, I've built this shiny object, what do you think? No. You go out there, learn about their current pain, learn about what they're using, what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to see in an improved product. And once you've gotten all your answers to those questions, then you can introduce your product to them and ask them for their opinion. So I hope this helps. I think that this is the most critical thing you would do to start your business. And if you do not do customer discovery, if you do not get out of the building, as Steve Blank will say, and go talk to real customers, you are setting yourself up for failure. And that's just a fact. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to our channel for our next video. Thank you.